Hi, my name's Duncan Clark and I'm the senior pastor here at Coventry Elim. Thanks for taking the time to visit our website and just to find out a little bit more about how you can partner with us. So here at Elim, the way that we express our commitment to this local church is through a process we call partnership. We've found that once a person has been attending Elim for a little while and that they've discovered that this is their spiritual home, at least for a season of their lives, then they're ready to take a step that communicates their commitment to the church. That step we call partnership. And it's a way that demonstrates a person's desire to carry some of the responsibilities of being part of this local church and then transition from being a simple observer to someone who's a participator. So here at Elim, foundational to our understanding of the nature of the church are 5 words spoken by Jesus in Matthew 16 verse 18. Of course, some church denominations argue maybe or debate about which rock Jesus built his church on. But nobody argues that Jesus builds the church. He says, I will build my church. And so Jesus takes on the responsibility of building the church, and he does what we might call the heavy lifting. But amazingly, he passes on some of the building responsibilities to us. So we get to co-labor or partner with him in the construction process. If you ever take time to read through a book like the book of Acts in the New Testament, you'll see a picture there of Christ's followers engaging in the building process of that early church. They didn't just sit around waiting for Jesus to do the work. They took the responsibility for the construction of the church and they partnered with Jesus in building it. And so they gave and they served and they prayed and they taught and they cared and they traveled and they preached. They did all of those things so that local churches around the then known world would grow and flourish. So the primary Greek word that's translated as partnership in the New Testament is koinonia. It appears actually 19 times. Most commonly it's translated as fellowship, but it can be translated as partnership or participation or sharing or association. It seems that those early Christians took very seriously the responsibility of co-laboring with Christ in the building of his church. And so they joined together in the work, they shared their resources, they participated in ministry, they partnered in the spreading of the gospel so that churches around the world would then grow and multiply and would influence and shape cities and cultures. So there's something I love that the Apostle Paul does a number of times in his letters. He lists the names of people who are partnering with him in the construction of a local church. Sometimes he calls them fellow workers or fellow servants, and they're a really diverse group of people. So Colossians chapter 4 is just a really great example of this. If you read the text, you see there's Onesimus. He's a guy who was a runaway slave. He had no power, no status, no connections. There's a guy called Tychicus listed in the text. He was a convert from Asia who had left his home country and he was serving a church overseas. And then there's Epaphras. He was a local born guy who just had a passion for his local church. Then there was Mark, who was a failure in ministry. He had run away when the going got too tough. And then there was Luke, who was a professional, a doctor, who devoted himself to the cause of that local church. Then there was Nympha, who was a woman who lived at a time where women weren't really given too many significant roles, and yet she was obviously playing a vital role in the building of that church. That was koinonia. Each person participating, partnering, co-laboring with Christ in the building of his church. So I love how here at Elim, we already have this large and growing group of people who have taken seriously the call to partnership. People who have often responsible jobs on a Monday, but they get their hands dirty on a Sunday. People who give up their sleep and they load a van at 7:30 a.m. so that we can get into the Belgrade Theatre. People who clean the toilets before the church arrives. People who serve coffee and serve food and sweep floors. People who register children, people who prepare rooms, people who play musical instruments, they operate the PA, they do the DIY, people who cook and paint and mend and sew and lift and shift and drive and clean and build and mow and dig and sing and teach. Here at Elim, we have this growing group of people who are less concerned about their rights. They're far more concerned about taking responsibility for this local church. We call them partners. And we would love you to consider joining them as we reach this city for Christ.